Hello and welcome. So Michael here, and in this video I want to explore and explain the 5 different types of students. Now this is in the context of the spiritual, kind of new age aspirant, if you like. And this covers yoga, qigong, martial arts, and also healers. So anyone in that kind of energy medicine or natural medicine space as well. So that includes them within these 5 stages. And so this is also for the general population. Most of us travel through these 5 stages. However, there are, occasional anomalies or occasional people that will completely break the mold and, be in different stages at different times. But for most of us, this is the way that it tends to unfold. And I see this in myself, and I see this in people around me through the years. And I thought if I made a video and explained it, that it could help yourself work out kind of where you're at. And also, what's coming, what's next, some of the obstacles that you may need to face. And also, it may also help people around you. So if you're friends at a certain stage, you can kind of understand where they're coming from a bit better, so that you're not kind of expecting or pressuring them into different stages where they're not quite ready for. Okay, so what are the 5 stages? The first stage is what I call the explorer, the experimentalist, the seeker, and also a bit of a fool as well. Right, so this is the beginning stage of the spiritual aspirant, and this is when it's all kind of new and exciting. And the explorer tends to jump from one thing to the next rapidly. So one type of yoga practice this week, next week it's different. The week after that it's qigong, the week after that it's an ayahuasca journey. The week after that it's a different experience. The week after that it's a different teacher. And so often jumping around a lot. Maybe the traveling from one country to the next, getting a taste of this teacher and that teacher, they're kind of just constantly moving around. So they never quite go too deep, but they, explore different things. And this is actually a really healthy thing to do. This is a good thing to do, right? It's good to taste lots of different things out there, right? And until you find something that kind of clicks, right? What you don't want to do is just go towards something because your friend said or your parents said this is the path, and then you just do it because, you don't think there's anything else. So it's good to try lots of different things. The obstacle, though, in this stage is that you never snap out of it, is that you're just constantly sort of chasing the high, I describe it. Or the shiny object syndrome, where you jump into one particular practice, and then you hear of another one, and you abandon that, and you jump to the next one. And you're just constantly doing that year after year, year after year. So the danger is you just never really get anywhere if you do that. You're chasing in a particular experience. And the path actually is not sort of having one massive experience. There's a great quote by a Zen master who says, you may not even become aware of your own enlightenment. So I often think that a lot of people are chasing the experience. And then they're comparing every other experience to that experience. And so that becomes their new identity, which is a trap again. So that's the first stage, is the explorer. It's healthy, it's good, right? But don't get stuck in it for too long, because you'll never get anywhere else. Number 2 is what I call the student. So the student means becoming a bit more focused, becoming a bit more serious. They've found a particular teaching or a style that sort of clicks, it makes sense to them, right? So they're making more of a commitment to train in that particular space. And that could be as simple as just showing up again and again, consistently, week after week, to the same teacher or to the same practice. So now they're starting to get momentum or develop or dig deeper into a particular style. There's less sort of time in the exploratory phase, though it's still happening, but there's more of a focus now in the student stage. The next stage is what I call the apprentice stage, or the apprenticeship, the serious student. And this is basically when they've decided to commit more fully to a particular style, training, teacher, whatever it may be. This is like a full-time commitment, almost full-time, right? It is, training most hours of the day. You're engaged in some kind of training to do with that field, right? So now you don't have much time left over to do the exploratory stuff. You may still be open to that stuff. You may still try different things, but it's not a priority anymore. You've now got a priority and you're starting to dig deeper into the apprenticeship stage. For the apprenticeship stage, of course, as with the student stage, you're going to have to make a commitment to sort of stay somewhere or to stay with a particular teacher, which now sort of creates kind of a limitation in a way. Right? With the exploratory phase, you can just bounce around from one thing to the next. You're not really committed. But with the apprenticeship phase, you're committed now. So you've kind of got to stay put somewhere and dig deep and focus in on that. So to use a reference point in martial arts, it takes at least, karate and taekwondo, it takes at least 3 to 4 years to get through the basic grading process. So that's a 4-year commitment, and that's training at least a couple of times every week for 4 years to get to that level. For a healer, for example, if you're studying acupuncture or Chinese medicine, it's a 4-year full-time commitment, and this is just the apprenticeship phase. This is still early days. So that's a 4-year commitment. If you're healing in a different space, like you're doing a training and it's not a 4-year program, I would say that even if you finish your training in like 6 months or whatever it is, and then you're sort of stepping out into the field of practice, the next 3.5 years is still apprenticeship. Right? If you're doing yoga teacher training, which now it's crazy these days, like 1 month, 2 months, to get a yoga teacher's training certificate, which is madness. That's just the beginning of the apprenticeship. Right? So after you finish your yoga teacher training, then you've got another 3 years of actually being in the field with mentor, support, and all that sort of stuff. That's still apprenticeship phase. You're not really a teacher, you're just apprenticeship. So that's the apprenticeship phase, and it takes, I'd say it takes a couple of years, right? And you're still, there's an excitement still there, you're still learning a lot, maybe you're learning quite a lot, maybe overwhelming at times. But also there's a point where it's kind of getting a bit boring or repetitive and monotonous as well. So it's like just repeating the training, repeating the process again and again and again. So it's definitely not as exciting as the exploratory phase, maybe not as exciting as the student phase. It's more sort of gritty, it's more committed, it's more focused, it's more disciplined, apprenticeship. Right? And this is good for you, this is good training, right? And again, you're not exploring too many other things, you're just focusing. The next stage, which I call the 4th stage, is called Practitioner. So you've gone through most of your training, you've focused, you've committed, you've grind through the apprenticeship phase, and now you're at a point where you're just practicing what you've learned, right? You're putting into action what you've acquired. And it reminds me of a quote by Alan Watts, who talks about the psychedelic experience. He says, once you get the message, hang up the phone. So similarly, the apprenticeship phase, the student phase, you're getting the message. You're acquiring the necessary knowledge. But then once you hit practitioner level, you kind of hang up the phone and you just practice what you've acquired. Right? Generally, you're not trying to, you've got so much to work with already that it could take you 10 years of just practicing without acquiring too much new. Of course, you're learning through the process as well. You're learning through the practitioner stage, but the sort of exploratory phase or trying to, seeking out new things all the time really falls away, because you just got to practice what you know. You've got to practice what you've got. before going off and doing other things, basically. So the practitioner phase is just doing the work. Just doing the work, putting in your time. You know, in Qigong and Kung Fu, and a lot of the Chinese culture is that a lot of the translation, it means hard work. It means long time. So putting in the time, putting in the work. And there's really no shortcut to this practice. You've just got to do the time. If you don't commit to the practitioner level and you go off and do other things, you're just prolonging this stage, right? So, or you could just go, focus, go hard, and you can get through it. But it does take time. Practitioner level takes time. And so this leads me to the fifth stage, which is what I call the teacher. Now, the word teacher is, in this context, doesn't necessarily mean the person standing up the front of the room, speaking, writing on the board and making videos like this. It doesn't necessarily mean that. What it means is that the teacher is one who is transmitting the teaching. So non-verbally, as well as verbal, but mainly non-verbal. So just being in the presence of this person, seeing them walk down the road, there's some transformation, if you're open to it, if you're receptive, depending on what you're into and where you're at, is that you're automatically learning from observing them or being around them. There's some kind of elevation in consciousness, some kind of elevation in alignment with the teaching just by being around them. So the teacher is really an example of an embodiment, a being who is in alignment with the teaching or the practice. So that's the difference, and it's a natural progression. The person, as a practitioner, as you keep going, you just naturally move into that stage. It's not like you get a certificate that says you're a teacher and da-da-da-da. There's no really formality. It's more like you just naturally find yourself there. And, you will get people asking you to teach certain things because they see something in you that is powerful, right? They recognize something is powerful in you, and so they will seek you out. But that's just part of it, right? Again, it's not about the formality of being a teacher. And also to mention, it doesn't also mean that in the previous stages, such as the practitioner level, that you're not teaching. In the practitioner level, you're actually a teacher as well. Maybe more of that formal teacher. You're teaching the apprentices, or you're teaching the students, or you're doing workshops and stuff, and you're sort of teaching in that way. Because, learning to teach the students and stuff is a part of your practitioner practice, right? A way of learning more about the teaching is to try and teach others. Right? So that more formalized teaching process is included in the previous stages as well. But it's when you hit the fifth stage that it's just a natural state of being, that there's a teaching element there. And also, just to finalize, is that it's not like you hit the teacher point and you stop learning, or that's it, you're enlightened and that's it. It's more like, you hit a point or you hit a stage where you're transmitting, but you're always still open, you're always still empty, you're always still available to be fresh with life. So you're still open and receptive to things, and you don't have that accumulation of pride. That's a sign that you've kind of gone a bit skew, is that you're actually like a highly embodied being in the teaching, but you're also very empty. Emptiness, therefore, is actually a high state of understanding. Right? So a great example of a great teacher is a teacher who's empty. Okay? And emptiness really means they're adaptable to any situation or any person, because they haven't got a pre-biased wanting or anything, expectation. So they're able to remain empty and open and clear and integrated so that they can deal with anything in life. That's a true embodiment being. So that's the 5 stages. You've got the explorer, you've got the student, you've got the apprentice, you've got the practitioner, and you've got the teacher. So hopefully it's helpful. If you have any questions, let me know. If you want more of these videos, subscribe, check it out. Also feel free to leave a comment below if there's a subject you want me to cover. And I'll see you next time.